Welcome to the Under the Hat podcast, the show where we talk about everything and anything that is top of mind in education. The goal is to provide meaningful conversation to what is currently happening in our classrooms. Stories, pains, moments of success. We want to hear it all. Welcome back, friends, to another episode of Under the Hat podcast. I am not currently wearing a hat, and I know that's a first. I'll explain why in a bit. But I would just like to give a big shout out to all of you who are sending me that love, like DMs, the likes, the subscriptions. Those of you like just giving me feedback on the show. It is, again, I mentioned this in the last episode. We're coming up towards the end of this first season. I had no idea I was going to be up to 24 episodes for this first season. That is probably where we're going to chop this out. We're at episode 23. And so if you're watching this, not listening to it like on the Spotify or wherever you catch your podcast, I'm wearing a t-shirt, Stan State. So those of you that are listening from other part of the country, other part of the world, like I had a guest, was it the last guest? The one before, from South Africa, right? Like I love connecting with all of you, with all these amazing educators from all over the world. But, you know, it is super powerful when you get reminded, like there's still a lot of passion. There's still a lot of talent. There's still great minds right here in my backyard. So if you're from California, you know that we're not a tiny state. So I'm in the Central Valley. And so Stanislaus State, it's in Turlock, California. If you don't know where that's at, don't feel bad. It's a fun little place. And so that is where I got all of my degrees, right? So I got my bachelor's there. I got my teaching credential there. And I also, I did grad school there. So I do have a master's in curriculum and instruction, all from there. And when I think back to it, it's really a good reminder of like where I came from, because I didn't think I was actually going to even go to college or even be a teacher. And so like when I am teaching teachers and when I was teaching students, it's just a good reminder of like, you know, you don't know who you're inspiring. And so that's something that I try to remember on the regular. Now, interesting thing, I work at Stan State now, very part-time, but my company lets me do, they let me have side hustles like this one, where I'm out in the streets with our student teachers. Lately, it's been a lot of the social science student teachers and interns giving them that support. And my university, we did a cool little conference. And so I was at the conference, I was there speaking, I spoke on design thinking, and had a blast doing it. When I was there, I was, you know, it was like, oh, the keynote's going to start. And here's a fun fact. I almost dipped out on the keynote. I was almost like, because I'm not a big fan of a keynote. I don't know why. I guess I'm more into them now on being on this side of education.
Is
But I
it
was like,
early? Sorry.
no, I think so. Honestly, I think it was because of the food. I was like, wait. Oh, there's donuts, there's coffee. Okay, cool. I'm gonna say, and I saw this amazing human get on the stage and just give. And I've been to a lot of conferences, folks, so just keep that in mind. This has to be in the top three at least. The top three keynotes I've heard in terms of passion, in terms of storytelling, in terms of like giving us the reminder of why we're in education and what is the actual purpose of school besides the academics, right? And so, folks, I'd like to introduce you to Dr. Furwa Rizvi. She teaches at same university as I teach, and I'm just thrilled to have you here. We're new friends, I feel. So we haven't known each other too long, but Dr. Furwa, how are you this evening?
I'm doing well. And oh my goodness, the intro is just so nice. Top three. Oh my God. How can I get to top one? I'm just kidding. But number one. But no, wow. I did not expect that you had felt that way when I had presented my keynote. And I was super vulnerable when I was writing it out, and I was extremely nervous getting up on that stage because I have not really shared my story with many people. And so I did not understand what kind of reaction that I will get. It still doesn't fully like make sense for me when people are still so supportive just across campus. Like, you came up to me immediately after my keynote and I was just like, who is this person? Like, what's going on?
This weird guy with a beard just coming up at me.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
It's
But
okay.
I
It's
just
okay.
had to put my judgment aside because you were very kind and nice and, professional. And, I just was just surprised by the reactions from the crowd. It just doesn't make sense to me. But, I'm a professor. I'm a brand new professor at Stan State this year. And I've had so many great opportunities already. I used to be a transitional kindergarten teacher. My heart lies with the little ones. But I really got so excited to have this opportunity to be a professor in the multiple subject credential program and teaching literacy right now. We're developing the pre-K through third grade credential. And I also get to supervise student teachers as well. So that's been really fun, but also the flexibility of our schedule from being a classroom teacher to a professor. It has been really nice. So yeah, like I can like do a podcast. I could say yes to these random but exciting opportunities. So I really appreciate like everything. So thank you.
No, absolutely, absolutely. And I mean, well, like just to take a quick little sidebar on
Mhm.
the university supervision stuff, because I feel like that work gets underappreciated. Um, Not like for us necessarily, but like
Mhm.
the importance of having that support with these people
Yes.
that are entering the profession. And it's, to me, it's been the best type of teaching I've ever done. Like, it doesn't get more hands-on than that, right? We're like, ooh, this is what went well. Okay, don't do that again. And having those real conversations. And while I used to love having a student teacher myself,
Mhm.
it's cool that I now have like several of them. Like, I feel like I'm spreading more knowledge, more love for to these amazing humans that are entering the profession. So I don't know if you have the same experience with it, but
Yes. Initially, when I started supervising student teachers, I'm just like, I feel like such an imposter. Like, who gave me this power? Like, coming in with my laptop and telling them what to do. I was like, this is so odd. How are they trusting me with this? But it just became so natural. And then I was also able to tell the student teachers, like, hey, like I was right there with you. I used to be a student teacher not too long ago. So I understand what you're going through, and I'm here to support you. This is not supposed to be me tearing you down. We're just having conversations. We're trying to build you up, build your confidence up, and then make sure that you're taken care of. Because they're just shipped off to their school site. But I want to let them know, like, hey, Stan State is still there to support you.
yeah, yeah. And I don't know. I was kind of like yourself, right? Where the first meeting I had, because typically a university supervisor, they're much older.
Yes.
I can say that. I can say that, right? Like
Yes.
they're much older. Like they've already left the classroom for retirement reasons, right? Like
Oh, yes.
I left the classroom for like professional reasons, but now I have the time to do so. So I remember the first meeting, I think everyone was like, who's this young dude here? Like who brought their kid to work? Like I kind of got that vibe.
Same.
And so I think as a result, I think I approach it differently though, because to me, like when I go in there, it's like I am more of like an instructional coach. Like that's kind of where my brain's at. It's not
Mhm.
so much like I'm evaluating every TPE. Like I
Right.
do that because I have to, but
Yes.
it's one of those things where like the actual like authenticity of the support, the nurturing,
Mhm.
and to me that's what I love. And I feel that we're going to revisit that kind of language in a bit,
Yes.
um, because Dr. Furwa, like you have an amazing story, and feel free to share as much or as little as you'd like. Um, but for anybody that's watching, listening sometime in the future, um, who are you? How'd you get into education? What is your story, and what led you to this moment in your life where you're now working at Stan State?
Oh man, that's a loaded question, but I'm very excited to start sharing. I think the keynote speech was like my first moment where I actually shared to so many people, whereas people who have known me, worked with me for many years, have no clue. And so, I come off as a very happy person, which I am. So it's very hard to tell like what's going on behind closed doors or throughout my past. And so education growing up like wasn't something that was going to be provided or like allowed for me to have a higher education when I was younger. It was always with my strict religious community that I grew up in. It was always like, okay, well, you're going to be a housewife one day. You're going to get married off one day. And that's what you need to focus on. Whereas my brothers, because I was the only girl, my brothers would be like, okay, you need to focus on your career, have ambition and goals. And so anything academic focus for me was really like, oh, well, brushed off. There was no like growth mindset for me in terms of growing academically. And so I just knew at a young age that this is my future is being a housewife and that's it. And so, you know, I thought I was never going to be able to go to college, and it kind of was leading me towards that path, just getting into a child marriage at like, 16, the engagement, 17, getting into that child marriage, green card marriage, and it was like the norm in our little community. And so I was still in high school, trying to finish up my senior year. I graduated early because I just had to get rid of my education as fast as I could. Or I was told that. And so my grades were never great because it was just not a thing. And yeah, so it then like once I graduated high school and everything, I still wanted to like something in me just started like a spark, like, okay, I need to enroll into like community college. I want to keep going. Um, because when I was in my high school classes, I also felt very safe there versus when I was married and I would go back home after high school, it became super unsafe for me. And I wasn't treated like a human being. Like I was treated more like an object. Um, there was just a lot of abuse going on. All the kinds you can think of. There's just a lot of abuse happening. And so, and like no support, I wasn't allowed to have a car. I wasn't allowed to, if I had a phone, everything's being tracked. It's just so much control. There was absolutely no free will. And I felt like when I was in the classroom, like, oh, the teacher teaches everyone and treats everyone the same. They're all human beings. And I'm like, I can't lose this. And so just me fighting, getting into community college, just fighting just for that. And then every semester after that was a fight. And literally me risking my life to just enroll. And so, I still don't understand why or how, but he kept on allowing me to keep enrolling into my college courses, while the abuse and control was still happening. I tried so many times to leave. Everyone is so quick to blame the victim, right? Or say, oh, you're playing the victim. And so that shut me down even further. That basically silenced me even further. So I wouldn't talk about it because there was no one to support me. And so I just stopped talking about it. And it's crazy because I'm like, this was happening in my teenage years and like my early 20s. And now I'm 35 and now I'm talking about it. And it's just wild to me because it feels like yesterday, but then it also doesn't. It feels like a different life that I had. It doesn't feel real.
Yeah.
Like, cats have 9 lives. So do I. So I think I'm on like life 5. So yeah, so there was just no support. And even growing up in Texas, very conservative state, and I felt very judged as well by like the police force, the justice system as well.
Mm.
I think they just like look at my name, look at, who I am, and they just assume that you're uneducated, you're just, there was so many things that I felt that also police could have done when I did report the one time. So and then I was also denied reporting by my parents as well, just to lie. Yeah, I didn't put that in my keynote. And I was like, it's getting too long. I have a time limit. But so it was just like safety was not, it's all about family honor, and safety is not, doesn't matter. It's just what would people say? How will we look to the rest of the community? And I know I'm not the only one that, went through something like this, but they've been silenced. And so it's just very, very unfortunate. But then it's so interesting within the community. When I did finally get out, and I'll get to how I did that. When I did finally get out, I was severely like judged so much. Like basically, like I don't even involve myself with the community anymore because it's just not worth it. And then you see girls who are in similar situations, but then they judge you. And I talked to my therapist a lot about this, and she's just like, well, it could be like a place of envy because you got out and they didn't. Because if you because I hear things, I know their stories. I've heard other girls trying to leave, but they were already like shipped off and married again or silenced. So many pieces to that. But again, the best part, why I love education, again, so many reasons, but my last semester of my senior year of college, I took a class called Domestic Violence in the Family. I avoided taking that class because I'm like, this is going to be too triggering for me, but I need an elective. Everyone said on Rate My Professors, like, she's great, she's an easy A. So I'm like, okay, I'll just go ahead and do it. And so at University of Texas at Dallas, my professor just created that environment for us to really talk about our reflections to readings and go into as much detail or little detail as we want. And she kept it super private because everything was like typed up, printed out on paper back then. So we had to like submit it like face down every time. So I just felt like I was able to talk about what was going on because I was currently still in it. Because it was almost at 5 years when I was in that marriage. So I was just like, well, we'll see if she even reads it. Who knows? But then she just took action so quickly. And she would do written responses, and then she would talk to me in person, like verbally. And then she just connected me with resources. And I got more knowledge about what is abuse, because I was also told like this abuse is just how our culture is. So I just thought that that's just the way things are, and that's just how men are in our culture. Even though my dad isn't like that, like it's just, I was just told like, oh, this is just how it is. And you have to be submissive and you have to be quiet. and you have to do anything and everything to save the marriage. And so, yeah, when I started getting like the research involved with abuse, I learned that there are patterns and there are, um, you know, there's like so many other studies done that show the same behaviors. And then I realized, like, no, this is like I don't know what to call it, like an illness or some sort of thing, an imbalance. I don't know, but very similar behaviors because I got a checklist from my class on like what is abuse. And so, does your partner do this? Do they do that? And I checked every single box except for something to do with animals and children, since we had no pets and no kids. And I was like, whoo, this is not a culture thing. That's just an excuse. Okay. So that's when I really decided to take action. But she also, my professor, who went by Sarah, taught me how to do it safely. So I couldn't just up and leave because I've tried that, not safe. And I didn't have anything like a car, or my phone's always tracked. Don't have access to money. If I did, it's like tracked. Like he would get mad if I spent any money, even though he had an abundance of it. But it was just another form of control. So planned it out for an entire month, talked to so many people on campus police, the deans, I don't even know. I don't even remember how many offices I went into, because they were just making sure that I'm doing this safely. And I cannot thank them enough, because when I did leave, I had a friend help me. She was a friend at the time, but she helped me, like, get into her car with the few things I had. And then we just went to her place, and I threw away my phone in a creek because I'm like, this is going to be tracked. So
Yeah.
it is what it is. And the university also advised me to not tell my family, because he's going to go straight to them to try to find me. They want a natural reaction from him as well. So for him, so I had to call the police ahead of time and let them know, like, hey, this is my name, this is my address. I am leaving, like, on purpose. I'm not going to be kidnapped, because he will contact you. And lo and behold, those things happened. He went straight to my family. He went straight to the police. They had already known. So all of like the planning that I had done was very worth it. It was the month of March 2011. So the entire month I planned it. And then in April 11th, 2011, that's when I left. And I never looked back. A lot of voices like were in my head, like, you're gonna regret it. You're gonna, is the grass greener on the other side? I was like, and then like, you're going to be judged. But I was so excited that I finally had a way out, that all those voices just got silenced in my head. I'm like, no, this is it. This is finally, I'm going to be free. I can choose what I want to do in life, and I won't be controlled. And so, me leaving, like, obviously, I was a wreck, right? Because I'm human. I was an emotional wreck. I remember just like sleeping for the rest of the day. But he was like, he went through my phone logs and started contacting all the people that I last was in touch with, and threatening them, and all those empty threats and whatnot. Thankfully nothing actually happened at the time. Obviously I was worried for everyone's safety, but I'm so glad that they were safe. I was safe. But that's why, another reason why I don't tell people is because I'm always so concerned about my safety, but I'm like, it's been a long time. I hope I hope it's okay. But, again, that's why on the keynote speech, I also shared photos of my progression through life. And I, blacked out or, whited out his face and all of that because, just I still have that fear. And sometimes I hate that. I hate that it's still there. I'm like, is this still like a sense of his control? But I'm like, no, Furwa, you are unlearning what you were taught your whole life. So it takes time. Again, therapy is amazing. So highly recommend. but but when I left, it was just realize the female friend I was with wasn't someone I could trust. And so, there's just another situation that occurred living with her. Like, she had a lot of male friends, and it's so odd to me that the occurrences that I've had are all men of my culture, my race. So it's very hard for me to keep an open mind and not be angry with them, because like I know we can't judge people just because who they are. But good God, I've had a lot of experiences where it's the same race, same like religion, where they take advantage of me. And so yeah, it's like I was taken advantage of one night. Her guy friend comes home drunk and took advantage of me. And so it was really frustrating. And then she was also Pakistani. I'm actually Pakistani. So she did nothing to help me. She would just blame me that I'm seeking attention and I wanted it. And so that was just another thing. And I just, again, like silenced again. And so like I never really told people because I'm so used to being judged. Getting a little emotional, but I'm so used to being judged. And then now I like constantly judge myself too. But that's what therapy again is for. And it's just been a long, long journey, because after that, then I went back to my family and just kind of, because I needed to be safe somewhere. Yes, they were also very strict going back, and I brought so much shame in the family and blah blah blah, and always was told that you need to get remarried ASAP, because how dare you be divorced in our family, and like I would be very angry and I would argue and with my mom. And so she would just see me as like I'm so difficult. So it's like always like it's hard. Always just attacking who I am, or I don't know. Sorry.
Yeah, no. I just speaking for myself. I just appreciate your bravery, right, and your willingness, because there's a lot of power in patterns. There's a lot of
Yes.
power in like just the status quo, right? And sometimes we accept things like you say, like because that's the way they are. But
Yes.
at a certain point, patterns speak volumes of the people around you,
Mm-hmm.
the perhaps like the culture. When I say culture, I mean like a neighborhood or a community could have culture, right?
Right.
Regardless of where you are. And so I think for you don't know, like the keynote, for example, like you don't know who's listening, right? Could be a podcaster, or or it could be someone else, right? That really needs to hear that story.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is what, because you mentioned earlier, like, oh, I was so surprised by all the reactions, right? And I think it just resonated with the room because, and I'm not saying this is right, but a lot of what you're describing, we all either have experienced similar things or know someone that's experienced those types of, terrible things. And we don't like talking about it, right? And kind of going back to like therapy, do it, right?
Yes.
Good for us, right? And so, but depending on who you are, where you come from, like some people have been conditioned to like, no, I'm just going to harness that, keep it in, and it's going to brew in there for as forever perhaps, and be so unhealthy in that way. And so that's what I mean, like the title of the episode, schools as a safe haven, right? Like it is striking. Like it's almost so transparent as someone that's listening to the story for the first time and being like, wait. It was the school system. It was the the a school itself that was the place, right?
Yes.
And I think we, as teachers, as educators, like we forget that sometimes. Like we don't know what our students are dealing with. We don't know what our colleagues are dealing with, right? And like we get so wrapped up with the grading, the benchmarks, the all the other things that come with education, that we forget that our students, they deal with real things, right? And so I think your story is just a powerful reminder of that.
Yes, absolutely. And and that's what I emphasize in my keynote. Like, I want you guys to look at your students holistically, beyond the four walls of the classroom. Who are they as an individual? Get to know them, build relationships with them, because you just never know. You could be, as an educator, you could be the only person that actually listens to them and actually would take care of them and support them. They could have like all the doors closed in their life, and you could be that one person that actually takes the time and cares. And that's what Sarah was at UT Dallas. And so them and just the university itself, because obviously I still had 6 weeks left before graduation. And so he knew my entire schedule. And lo and behold, like that Monday, he finds me at my class. I see his car parked in the parking lot in front of the building. And I had a full on breakdown. But then campus police, as soon as I contacted them, they were so fast to just put me in their car, and they have like their little tinted windows. So I felt super safe. And the police officer, he just allowed me to just be a complete like emotional mess. And he allowed me to just talk about how like he's this man who found me, like he is so unsafe for me. Yeah, it was God. It meant the world to me. And so he really validated me, and he was just like, yeah, he should not be like out here on these streets. Like he should have been locked away. Like this is ridiculous. And so they were so quick to take his picture and like ban him, like get his information, his car information, ban him from the campus. And like if he ever sets foot, they're gonna like arrest him. And I was just like, that was so fast. You guys didn't ask for me to give you any proof, or you didn't call me a liar. You just believed me. And that's what the whole university did. They didn't judge me. It's just crazy how supportive they were. And people talk a lot about, oh, school, oh my God, education system is failing us. But it's just like, is it really though? Like, come on, like look at these situations. There's just, I will never forget what they did for me, and just in education in general. And so that was the only place where I put my trust in, was education. And so I pursued my master's and in education, because that was my actual passion. But my undergrad was in psychology. but my actual passion was teaching education. And so I didn't really have support from my parents going into education because they're just like, why are you doing this? Like, they're like, well, if you don't want to get married, you need to become like a doctor, a medical doctor and everything. But I did, but on my own terms. So so yeah, so then I just pursued it, and then I just realized I just put my passion into it, and that taught me that if you just follow your passion, like, it'll just open up so many more doors. The money will follow. Like, you will become successful. You'll get to where you need to be, where you're meant to be. So I didn't want them to control me. I just kept going. Like, I'm just going to keep doing this, and got my teaching credential, my master's at UT Arlington in Texas. But then, I had that pressure. You need to get married. We don't care that you have your master's. It's like, we don't care you have a 4.0. We don't care. What matters is you're married. So again, they were like always like telling me that I need to get married to all these men, and it's like, well, now that you're divorced, you only deserve men who are like much older. Well, no, that was the first time too, but like men with kids, men who are divorced, maybe much older. Like, they're just kind of, I had like a price tag, it's like, this is all you're worth. This is all you deserve now that you've ruined your image. And good God, it's very hard to like say what I was hearing because it sounds so ridiculous, but it was my reality. And yeah, so then, this time, like, I felt like, oh yeah, I'm in love. Like, he's amazing. That's how I moved out to California. He lived in California. And so I thought this was it. Like, okay, I'm going to start my teaching career. And he's the love of my life, everything. But that life sucks. So then that, like, within like 2 months, like, he was just very unfaithful. And I'm just like, he doesn't beat me, but he cheats on me. So I'm like, how are these men just beaters and cheaters? Like, it just really jaded my whole perception on men of my culture, which is unfair. I understand. So I shouldn't say that. But like, my experiences, those are just my experiences where I've dealt with
Well,
that.
but that goes back to what I said earlier, like with the patterns, right? Like, there's so much weight in the patterns and the experiences.
Yes.
Because if the experiences and the patterns coincide with each other, like, and again, like, you kind of go back to like, oh, it's not fair. But when that's what the patterns have been, it's like, at some level, right? You have to be like, no, I can't, right? Whether that means like, no, I can't be with anyone, or no, I can't like do this or that or the other. Because yeah, and that goes back to like, what kind of patterns do we provide now to any human that we interact with, right? Whether it's our students or, people listening, our spouse, our own children. Because yeah, like, I would imagine that's, to me, that's the big takeaway of your story, right? Is just like the weight that exists within patterns that we see, and that we ultimately sometimes like amplify as well.
Right. Yeah, for sure. And thank you, because I feel bad saying like, oh, men are like this, but it's the patterns. It's like,
Yeah,
so
but I mean, anyone could. How do I say this? Anyone can provide a negative pattern, right? Like, men, women, what
yes,
have you.
absolutely.
I think the big thing is for us to evaluate what those patterns are, and how to either redirect them, or like observe a pattern and like make the best choices for ourselves.
Right. Yes. Yeah. Observing patterns, documenting, you know.
Yeah, yeah. So with so like and again, such a powerful story. Um, how did that shape you as a teacher? Like, because I would imagine, because like that's how it was for me. Like I had my own baggage experience that I
Hmm.
won't get into here. But like we have our own story, we have our own like experiences, and have consumed those patterns and have observed them. How did that impact? How did that drive you as a teacher?
Oh, it really made me look at my students where, like, I'm going to do anything and everything to make sure when they're with me that they feel safe, that they feel protected, and they feel supported. And I really just, even if it took like so much energy out of me, I did everything I could. I wanted to create relationships immediately with my students and get to know them. Even my little young students at 4 and 5, like I just wanted to have like one-on-one time with each of my students, all throughout the school year, because I want to know who they are. And then now when I'm at the higher ed level, I also ensure to let them know, like, hey, I'm here to support you. I know, like, we have to get through all these things and all the TPEs and everything like that, but I also said that I also want to humanize myself and I want to humanize you. If you need support, I'm here to talk with you. We can set up an appointment. We can just like chat after class. I am so open to hearing your story or whatever. How can I make your experience here um, easier? Because it can get very stressful in the teacher credential program. It's
Yes,
super stressful. And
they
so,
do not like a TPA.
oh my God, I was just about to say that the TPA, it's like war cries in
Yeah.
my classroom management class. I'm like, oh my gosh, guys, okay, I'm here for you. I hear you, and we're gonna get through this together.
Hmm.
And even with student teachers, yes, they're not my actual students in classrooms, but when we're doing our debriefing, I take the time and I ask them, like, how are you doing? Like, forget everything else. How are you doing on a personal level? I ensure to ask that question every single time I see them. And, you know, the stories that I've heard, I'm just like, wow. It just makes me think like, wow, I'm meant to be here, because I've
Mm.
had some students with similar stories and I'm just like, oh my God, okay, I know what to do. Like, let's figure this out together. And, and then things that I'm not so familiar with, I'm like, okay, we're going to figure this out. Like, I might not have the answer just a second, but we'll figure something out. And so, it's good to have educators like that, because then you get those super rewarding messages from students like, you're my only hope. Like, thank you so much. Yeah, it's like things that I don't realize and expect that they're going to say. They just like pour their heart out to me, and I'm okay with that. I don't see it as like a burden. And I don't want my students to ever feel like that they're a burden to me. That.
And that's so
Mhm.
that to me reminds me of I had a couple students over the years that, you know, male and female, right?
Mhm.
That
Mhm.
they they decided to come to me to have that vulnerable moment.
Yes.
And while perhaps for some, maybe non-teachers, right? Maybe some teachers are
Mhm.
like, oh, it's a burden, as you say. To me, it's like the highest honor that
Yes.
they felt safe enough. I had to be like I was doing something right,
Yeah.
right? Like to where students would come to me and be able to open up like that because they felt that safe in my presence, right? They felt that
Mhm.
safe in my room. And, you know, and I'm sure there's plenty of other teachers that feel the exact same way. And
Absolutely.
it really it's again it's a reminder of like how important our jobs are as educators
Mhm.
beyond those standards, right? Beyond those TPAs, and
Yes.
because I've had somewhat kind of low key experiences with student teachers too,
Mhm.
especially the ones they're out there at a junior high school site. That's a whole different monster. That's like it's not high school, it's not elementary, it's some weird zone right there. Um, some weird stuff happening in those schools. Um, and but no, they're trying to navigate classroom management with that
Mhm.
age for the first time, and they're like, "Do I actually want to do this?" I'm like, "Well, only you could answer that, but here's what we can do to help, right?"
Mhm.
And be that ear, be that, you know, at the top of this episode, like that the instructional coach kind of mentality, or like
Right.
the mentor mentality.
Absolutely.
And so for me, that was always so important. um I we're coming up towards the end of this episode. So friends, you all know, if you've been listening, by the way, Mantha, I see you up in the Instagram. Thanks for stopping by. I always have that big question at the end. And so, you know, and by the way, I didn't have my hat on because it's so hot in my office right now. Working from home, like I'm stuck in here. So here's my hat. And for those of you that know, I do like Star Wars a little bit. And so this is the hat that I'm deciding to wear. And if you really know me, like my friend Mantha, and my wife tunes in as well. She's on Instagram right now. If you really know me, you know that I like Star Wars so much. I have it inked on my arm. So to kind of give you a sense of the holiday that's coming up, May the 4th. So super stoked about that. So if you are downtown Modesto, I will be there with my daughter Riley. And for those that don't know, George Lucas is actually from Modesto, so from the town
Oh.
that I live by. And so if you don't know, now you know. So we get to this point. I'm rambling on now. We get to this point in the show where, you know, we ask our guests, you know, what is under the hat for you? What is top of mind in education? Maybe something that we need to be talking about more, something that you're seeing happening right now, uh, perhaps something that is keeping you up at night, or maybe something that we're doing well. Uh, so keen to hear from Dr. Rizvi of like what is top of mind for you right now.
Oh, so many things, but let's see. The top of mind always for me is just building relationships, like truly
Mm,
understanding your students. You have so much power as an educator, more than you know, and you should use it for good and use it to get to know your students and humanize each other. And just like taking that time just to get to know your students and your students' families, it is so worth it. You learn so much, you grow so much as a person and as an educator, and it just makes such a difference. I I mean, that's just schools as safe havens. I love this title. It's amazing. So create that safe haven, and you have the power to do that. So just keep on doing that, and I don't see it as a burden creating relationships. It's my favorite part. So
Oh, it's the best part,
it
right?
is the best part.
It is the best part. I'm doing with the supervision work. I'm currently observing a student teacher at my old school, so I've
Mm,
been going there the last few weeks, and it's been amazing seeing old colleagues. Like they come up, give me a big hug, and
wow.
but even I've been in a few classrooms where like I'm seeing students. So I've only been out for 2 years.
Mm,
So the sophomores that I had, they're now seniors. So they come up to me and just share like, you know, their memories of me. And some of them even like, they say like, are you coming back ever? I'm like, I don't
aw.
know. I don't know. And even a few parents have followed me on social media,
Mhm.
and like because I love that you mentioned like not just with the students but with the families, right? Because I felt like I did a pretty good job of that too, where like I got to know these parents, these families, and some of them, like, they still reach out to me, and like every once in a while, like, a thank you, be like, hey, thank you for handling my child this way, because it made an impact. And again, it's the best part, right? It's the best part. And
Absolutely.
so I just, like, with all that, that just resonated with me so much.
Yes. And I have one little tidbit with that, like building relationships. A lot of my students ask me, well, how do you do that? Like,
Mm,
how? But so some advice that I had received was within the first few weeks, send something home, a positive message or note or photo about their child, and just something positive. Just start off on something positive within the first few weeks for every student. I know for middle school, high school, it might be a little different. I don't know how you guys can navigate through that. I think that would
yeah.
be just more one-on-one with the actual students, but elementary, there's a lot more family involvement for younger kids. So I'm just thinking of in that mindset. So I would
Yeah.
definitely do that.
Absolutely. No, I love that. I love that. It's possible at the high school level. Like,
Okay, great.
do it the first week. Like,
Okay.
observe, check it out. Like, do it the first week, because after that first week, girl, it can be crazy after that. But because it gets wild after that first week. But yeah, if you or maybe like scatter it across like weeks, right? Be like, hey, I'm
Mhm.
really gonna target maybe first period with all that, second period, like, because yeah, I do think that's really good advice. Thank you so much for being on the show,
Of course,
Dr.
thank you for
Furwa
having
Rizvi.
me.
Yeah, like, it's been a complete blast. I love your bravery and your willingness to come
Thank
on
you.
and share your story. And I know that everyone listening also appreciates it. Don't feel like this has to be the only time. You're always welcome on my show, as
Thank
as a
you.
as as a coworker, technically, right? We're both working in the same place. And for all of those that are watching, listening, again, continue to drop in that love. Under the Hat Pod, I am we'll be taking the summer off, so there'll be content more, I'll be more on the content creation stuff over the summer. I'm trying to build out like highlights from this first season, and so that will be housed all over social, but I'm trying to get it housed on the website underhatpod.com, kicking off season 2 hopefully in August. And I'll be reaching out and getting guests locked in for the second season. And so, for those that are dropping in tonight, it's all on Instagram. Like, Instagram is popping. Are you a celebrity on Instagram? That's kind of the sense that I'm getting.
Oh, well, I guess I am now. I'm just kidding.
You are now, yeah. Just own it. Just own it.
Oh, well, subscribe, hit subscribe. I'm just kidding. But subscribe
It's
to Under the Hat.
absolutely, it's really funny too. Like, one quick little thing before you hop off.
Mhm.
My daughter, she
Yeah.
claims now that because she's seen my show,
Mhm.
she's like, when I grow up, Dad, and she's 7, mind you, when I grow up, I want to be a YouTuber. I'm
Oh,
like,
it's cute.
no, go to college.
Super good. Well, yes, go to college and also do it at the same time.
Maybe, right? Maybe you can have a side hustle like this. Yeah, absolutely. No, I just wanted to share that. All right, friends. So as always, though, keep your hats on, but your minds open. Until next time, take care. Bye bye.
Bye.